U.S. Embassy shooting is deemed a national security incident.
Students rally against OSAP changes.
A new Mpox strain found in Toronto. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Julia Sawicki.
And I'm Miguel Mabalay. Investigators are now treating the shooting at the U.S. consulate as a national security incident. Toronto police say the investigation is still in its early stages, and they will be looking at any possible links between the U.S. consulate shooting and the recent synagogue attacks, although no connections have been made at this time. At approximately 5:30 in the morning on March 10th, two individuals exited a white vehicle and fired shots at the consulate building downtown Toronto. No injuries were reported. Government officials have condemned the act, with Mark Carney, Doug Ford, and Olivia Chow releasing statements promising full cooperation in the investigation. The shooting comes at a time where global tensions continue to rise, with the United States and Israel waging war on Iran.
The Toronto Metropolitan Student Union, TMSU, has launched a $20 million lawsuit. In the statement of claim obtained by OTR, the union representing TMU undergraduates alleges that 12 people, including multiple former TMSU executives, engaged in civil fraud, conspiracy, and breach of contract, amongst other claims. OTR reporter Gabriel Hilty has the story.
TMSU offices in the Student Center building remain largely empty. This has been the case for over a year, with elections since February 2025 having been voided due to what the union has called compromised election processes, including interference referenced in a new lawsuit. In a press release sent out to the student body on Saturday, the union claims in court that former President Ali Yusuf repeatedly conspired to manipulate TMSU elections, including in the voided 2025 fall by-election. The union's statement of claim says Yusuf and other defendants worked, once elected, to get financial gain from contracts with the union. Trying to recoup $20 million in damages, the claim says the defendants are liable for 14 civil torts, including breach of contract, negligence, civil fraud, and conspiracy. The accounting firm MNP has an ongoing investigation into the union, started by TMSU legal counsel in January of 2025.
The union received more than 100 complaints of election violations in the fall by-election, and eventually we had to declare the 5 executive elections null and void. In the face of ongoing threats to TMSU, the board authorized the initiation of litigation. We think it's clear that some people are trying to get into power to stop the third-party investigation. What these people are doing needs to be public. Students need to be engaged. The integrity of the union's elections are going to be vital.
The lawsuit comes as TMSU general elections are scheduled, with voting from March 16th to 18th. A Wednesday executive candidate forum was largely empty for the first 2 hours, and only one candidate came in to present their platform.
Yeah, the stakes are really high, and we're very alive to the danger of just repeating a cycle that's been persisting for a number of years, and we just really need to deal with it at the root. In terms of what was in our jurisdiction to do, we thought that launching a civil lawsuit was the best thing in our power to try to protect student money and to try to see some justice and accountability once and for all.
Payments highlighted in the statement that violate union bylaws include over $1.75 million paid to the company Imagine Experience for multiple concerts and events, hundreds of thousands more than originally budgeted. The company is also named as a defendant in the suit and has a registered address here at 15 Briars Mews, which appears to be an apartment building. OTR contacted Imagine Experience for comment through a form on their website, but did not hear back in time for broadcast. We will bring you an update if we hear back. A future date for the proceedings here at the Superior Court at 330 University Avenue has not yet been posted. The deadline for defendants to submit statements of defense is Thursday, March 12th. According to the TMSU, the separate investigation by MNP is ongoing, with contact to the police for potential criminal charges. For OTR News, I'm Gabriel Hilty.
The decision of the Minister of Colleges, Universities, Research Excellence, and Security in Ontario has made changes to student financial aid and tuition policy, which has sparked protests across the province. Julia and I were at Queen's Park last Wednesday speaking to students at the Hands Off Our OSAP rally. The protest was peaceful at the start. When we left the rally, a confrontation between police officers and protesters took place, resulting in 2 arrests. Police allege that an individual spray-painted one of the monuments in Queen's Park, and while attempting to place them under arrest, protesters became aggressive. Investigators also say that an individual allegedly spat on one of the officers. Police have since arrested 22-year-old Rotanj Sani, charging them with mischief, and 21-year-old Mason Wallington with assault on a police officer. But here is what happened before we left.
From grants to loans, this is the bottom line of the recent OSAP policy changes. Colleges and universities can also raise tuition by up to 2% each year. Students and allies have taken over Queen's Park today to protest changes to student financial aid and tuition. Students attending post-secondary institutions say these changes could affect their ability to pay tuition and access essential programs.
I'm only here right now because of the disability grants, so I wouldn't be attending Trent University at all if it weren't for these grants and these loans. So I'm wondering what I'm going to do for tuition next year.
I'm attending an international institution next year, so I'm transferring, and without OSAP, the upfront tuition costs are ridiculous, which means I can't go and get specialized education that I could bring back to Canada.
New OSAP policy really exists this September. I might have to reconsider my study. After I check my bankroll, if I cannot afford to study in York University anymore, so I might need to unfortunately drop out.
For many students, the struggles aren't just personal. They reflect broader concerns about the accessibility of post-secondary education, and they want the government to hear their message loud and clear.
When we cut education, we lose critical thinkers. We want people to be able to think for themselves, and ultimately that's what university does.
I'm here to speak for all the Native students like me who were born on res, who were born without enough money to go to education. I want Doug Ford to know that we are here and we are fighting, and that he cannot keep ignoring Indigenous students in the province of Ontario that he is supposed to serve.
We got people from all political spectrums here, conservatives, liberals, leftists, Marxists, it don't matter. We're not here, we're all here together because we don't care what our political alignment is. What we care about is the fact that Doug Ford has been a crappy leader.
TMU says it is actively working to support students who may face financial barriers.
I can guarantee you that at TMU we are always looking to grow and develop new scholarship and funding opportunities for our students.
Universities may find solutions to help students. The matter will remain a source of concern for students until those solutions are found. For OTR News, I'm Julia Sawicki.
United will never be defeated.
Here at On the Record News, we are still covering the OSAP changes. Late last month, OTR reported on the town hall where student union representatives discussed the action plan to reverse the changes. One of these representatives present was Walied Khogali Ali, general manager at the Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Students' Union. This morning, OTR reporter Moyo Lawuyi spoke to him, asking why student groups and unions should have been consulted on the changes to Ontario's tuition frameworks.
Welcome, Walied, to On the Record News. To begin with, at the OSAP town hall late last month, you mentioned how you felt student groups like yours, the TMGSU, were not consulted when it came to the OSAP changes, especially with groups like the Office of the Vice Provost and other school administrators. How does that make you feel, and why do you think it's important for student groups to be consulted on the OSAP changes?
Excellent question, Moyo, and thanks everyone who's tuning in. Yeah, the Grad Students' Union, alongside our sister student unions, the Undergrad Students' Union and the Part-Time Students' Union, both TMSU and TMAPS, were not consulted by the government.
Okay.
The government did consult our university administrators, and I want to thank the Office of the Vice Provost students for letting us know that they had those conversations with the government directly. But this is another example of leaving student voices out of the conversation. Bill 33 has huge implications, as you might know. Moving from 85% loan, 85% grants and 15% loans to 25% grants and 75% loans, in addition to 2% tuition fee hikes annually. This is disastrous for students. It's disastrous for working families across Ontario. And we hope that this government will listen, especially due to the massive attendance of students, staff, faculty, and workers at the most recent protest at Queen's Park.
So the provincial government has framed the OSAP changes as necessary because the post-secondary sector is underfunded and needs more money. But what do you think these changes actually mean for students?
Well, you know what, let's put things into perspective. This government has been using international students as cash cows, hiking international student fees to levels that are so unsustainable, and asking our institutions to basically receive funding through international students for their operating budget, while they neglected their responsibilities to fund our institutions in favor of their friends and tax breaks for the richest people living in our society. I think this government must be held accountable. Per student funding in Ontario is the lowest in Canada. That's shameful. If they were serious about high quality education, they should be investing in education by making remittances directly to the operating budgets of our institutions like TMU. And let's make it clear, why are students being asked to shoulder the debt for decades, preventing them from accessing opportunities like homeownership, from pursuing high levels of education like postdoctorate? Many graduate students also have debt. But we've known through the current programs, specifically before Bill 33, that they were actually carrying on some debt, not too much debt. And I actually argue there should be no debt associated with education. Education is a public good, and we should have 100% grants, no loans, instead of 75% grants and 25% loans.
Yeah. So
no, sorry, 75% loans and 25% grants. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I get it. So after he announced the changes, Doug Ford mentioned that the OSAP cuts and the tuition changes would encourage students to pick courses and programs that are going to give them in-demand jobs and prevent them from picking basket weaving courses.
Yeah.
What do you think about these comments, and how do you think they show the Premier's views on post-secondary education?
I think that's very insulting. I think a liberal arts education is pretty important, especially with the new era of artificial intelligence, new jobs that are going to be the jobs for the future. We need to be very intentional in supporting students get the best form of education. And when I think about those comments, it's basically very derogatory. And we do need students to get into STEM, but the liberal arts are also important. There's more to life than just STEM, right? In fact, we have actually an industry that is focused on film and other productions, and I think it's really important for students like yourself who are in this program to be able to access this program instead of being forced into just STEM, right? I think this premier, I hope they finish their undergraduate degree, or I wish they went to university and actually understood the importance of education, should appreciate that a broad education is critically important for all of us living in our society.
Yes. So there was a rally at Queen's Park on March 4th.
Yeah.
How was it?
Oh my God, it was amazing.
How do you think rallies like this help spread the movement and encourage people
I have never seen such big numbers in such a long time. I've never seen such a diverse crowd from students, staff, faculty, community members, folks from the labor movement, folks from the environmental movement, folks from all walks of life who are just sick and tired of this bully. This premier is bullying students. And you know what? We need an empathetic premier, someone who deeply understands the purpose of education, the importance of education, and a premier that will commit to eliminating all barriers to access for education, including loans. Loans is not a good thing. When you have a loan, you're going to accumulate interest. And when you accumulate interest, that means you're going to have less disposable income, which means you have less money for housing, less money for food, less money to invest in your family if you want to start a family. So loans are a tax on the poor. So we need to remind this premier that he has abandoned the commitments made by previous premiers and previous governments of investing in people, investing in students.
Yes. So because the changes are coming in fall, many students feel hopeless. People that are just starting out undergrad, people that are going to grad school, like they feel hopeless. What do you think they can do, because the changes have been implemented? So what do you think they can do to actually move policy and make sure the OSAP changes are reversed?
Organize. Organize. I have 3 words. Educate, so we could agitate as many of our allies as possible, so we could organize effectively to defeat this legislation, Bill 33. Just because it was passed into law doesn't mean it can be rescinded. And I think when we connect with students across the province of Ontario and their families, whether they sign a petition, whether they make a phone call, whether they send an email to their member of parliament provincially, we will make our voices known that this regressive legislation needs to go. So I don't want anyone to lose hope. The thousands of students, faculty, and staff and community members that just showed up last week on Wednesday gives me hope. And we also have another important action on March 24th. And I hope students who are watching this are able to join us and invite their family and friends, because we are in charge. At the end of the day, it's the people living in Ontario. Doug Ford reports to us, and so does every elected official. Let's remember that. They're not the boss. They're supposed to work for us, and hopefully they will hear this message loud and clear that education is a right, and we must do everything we can to preserve access for all students that qualify to attend our post-secondary institutions.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, Walied. It was so great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Moyo.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yesterday, a new variant of Mpox was detected in Toronto and Ontario. Toronto Public Health says the Mpox vaccine remains available through clinics and community partners. The vaccine is free and does not require an OHIP card. 2 doses are recommended, given 28 days apart. Symptoms include painful skin lesions, fever, and flu-like symptoms such as chills, fatigue, and swollen lymph nodes. The virus spreads through contact with infected lesions, skin blisters, bodily fluids, or respiratory secretions, including through intimate or sexual contact. The virus can also be transmitted on materials such as clothing or bedding. For more information or to book an appointment with a Toronto Public Health Clinic, visit toronto.ca.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced 3 by-elections that are scheduled for April 13th. 2 will be held in the Toronto area ridings of Scarborough Southwest and University Rosedale. The 3rd will be held in Terrebonne, Montreal. After the 2025 federal elections, Carney's Liberal Party formed a minority government in the House of Commons. Liberals are hoping to win all 3 by-elections, as it will grant Carney the seats needed for a majority government, allowing them to pass legislations without relying on the support of other parties.
Toronto Metropolitan University is launching a free 14-week virtual career accelerator for post-secondary students and recent graduates who are under 29. The program begins in May 2026. The Embark Business Academy combines business training, AI skills development, and project experience with companies while providing financial assistance and an honorarium for students who complete the course. The program aims to close the experience gaps believed to exist between graduation and employment. Applications for the Academy are open to university students and recent graduates across Canada under the age of 29. The applications can be found on dmz.torontomu.ca and close on April 26.
On March 8th, Canada joined nations around the globe to observe International Women's Day, a day dedicated to honoring achievements of women while also serving as a call to action for accelerating gender equality. And with the 2026 FIFA World Cup on the horizon, attention is turning to women's soccer in Canada. OTR reporter Mia de Panfilo takes a closer look at a sport that is no longer male-dominant.
As Canada prepares to host matches during the 2026 FIFA World Cup, excitement around soccer is growing. Players say that the conversation around the women's game is shifting to ensuring its long-term future.
I feel like a main thing with the World Cup coming up is having that sponsorship and funding towards women's soccer because they are underfunded and underpaid compared to men.
Despite growing interest in the sport, female athletes still face challenges, from limited professional leagues to inconsistent funding. The launch of Canada's first professional women's league soccer team gives players a chance to compete professionally at home, inspiring young athletes and strengthening the sport across Canada. In honor of International Women's Day, athletes, advocates, and fans gathered for a panel discussion focused on the future of women's soccer in Canada.
Growing up, you would always wish to see women in sports, so now being able to see AFC, Tempos, Toronto Scepters, women in sports is growing, and can't wait to see more females, especially girls, looking up to these players.
Panelists highlighted how support from fans, sponsors, and local programs can help women's soccer thrive in Canada. For OTR, this is Mia de Panfilo.
With the NDP leadership race coming to a close at the end of March, our colleagues in JRN314 spoke to leaders of the NDP's leading reform group, NDP Rose Caucus. Here's more from them.
The only thing that Ontario needs to push is you and your corrupt government out of power.
This is Hussein Hashim. He is one of the leading members of the youth political reformist organization NDP Rose Caucus, and he's only 18 years old. Hashim wants to push the NDP and young voters in a more socialist direction.
You know, workers owning the means of production like co-ops, taxing the rich, public housing, groceries, building public homes, and taking the profits out of the basics. That's like what socialism is.
He uses social media to reach his peers. According to a 2025 National Population Polling report by Mental Health Research Canada, over 60% of people aged 16 to 24 spend more than 4 hours on screens in a day. 84% of people in that same age group are on Instagram, which is the Rose Caucus's main platform. After only a couple of months of hard work, Hashim has helped the group's Instagram account reach nearly 5,000 followers. They cover topics like income inequality, the rights of immigrants, and the Alberta separatist movement. With one post, a meme comparing U.S. President Donald Trump to actor John Candy in the movie Volunteers, having more than 1.5 million views.
Infotainment, that's what I like to say. I want people to get some sort of educational value out of that, right? But also at the same time, I do want them to be entertained.
Lately, they've been putting the spotlight on the federal NDP leadership race, which comes to a close at the end of March. Will young people vote in the NDP leadership election? In order to vote, they have to be registered members of the party, unlike in federal elections. Data on Canada's federal elections show that people aged 18 to 24 consistently have the lowest voter turnout of any age group, according to Statistics Canada.
Young people are going to protests, young people are engaging in political consumerism like boycotts and things like that. But that doesn't necessarily translate to the ballot box.
According to Case, lack of accessibility is one of the reasons youth voter turnout is so low.
It's like Elections Canada and your Elections Alberta, your Elections Ontario, those folks have made efforts to make things like voting on campus easier. But then there's also just a communications piece.
One Toronto Metropolitan University student says he'd like to see more young people in power, from the federal to the municipal level.
Everyone that's around my area that we voted for was they have been in the chair for 20 years. So I'm not really sure they understand, the university style, the just like Toronto, how it is as a city.
Hashim says activism is the better choice.
If we don't do politics, politics will do us.
That was Anna Jeffs and her colleagues from TMU's third-year broadcast class.
And now to our regular weekly feature. That's entertainment. This week, we are joined by Saba Iqbal. What have you got for us, Saba?
In film news, the upcoming science fiction movie project, Hail Mary, is set to hit theaters later this month, March 2026. The film stars Canadian actor Ryan Gosling, who plays a teacher-turned-astronaut sent on a dangerous mission in space. The story follows a lone astronaut who must find a way to save Earth after scientists discover a mysterious threat affecting the sun. The movie is based on the best-selling novel by science fiction writer Andy Weir, who also wrote The Martian. Early reactions say the film could become one of the biggest science fiction releases of the year. In music news, Canadian pop star Ted McRae continues to gain international attention as her latest song, including Ego Death, trend across streaming platforms. The singer first gained popularity after appearing on the television competition So You Think You Can Dance before launching her successful music career. Since then, McRae has built a strong global fan base with millions of listeners following her music online. This April, McRae is set to receive the Hitmaker Award at the Billboard Women in Music ceremony in Los Angeles, recognizing her impact as one of Canada's fastest rising pop stars. Fans frequently share clips of her performances and songs across social media, helping her music reach new audiences around the world. In television series news, the popular HBO drama Euphoria is preparing for its long-awaited third season, which is set to premiere on April 12, 2026 on HBO and HBO Max. The series starring Zendaya follows a group of teenagers as they navigate friendship, identity, and growing up in the modern world. Since its debut in 2019, the show has gained global popularity and has become one of the HBO's most talked about dramas. Fans have been waiting for updates about the new season, and production is expected to begin later this year. Viewers say they are excited to see the return of their favorite characters and storylines. And that's the latest in entertainment this week. Now back to you.
We now turn to sports. And one of the TMU Bowl teams has a chance to compete in the national championships if they win this Saturday. Jaden Whitelaw tells us about this and more.
That's right. It's win or go home for the TMU Bowl men's hockey team as they play Queen's University for a place in the U Sports National Championships. It's also the third place match of the provincial championships after the Bowl lost to the Windsor Lancers in a best-of-3 series. Puck drop is set for 4:15 p.m. this Saturday at the Mattamy Athletics Center. And remember, TMU students get in free with their one card. To baseball now, it's also a win or go home scenario tonight for Team Canada in the World Baseball Classic. After defeating Puerto Rico last night, who have already qualified, Canada will face Cuba to decide who gets the other spot in the quarterfinals of the tournament. A win would also place Canada as the top seed in their pool for the knockout stage. Canada is looking to make the knockouts of the World Baseball Classic for the first time ever. First pitch is set for 3 p.m. today. We head to the ice now, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have suffered their 8th straight defeat last night, losing 3-1 away to the Montreal Canadiens. It continues a nightmare couple of weeks for the team, who are still yet to win since the league paused for the Winter Olympics. The playoff hopes for the Leafs are all but gone as they now sit at the bottom of the Eastern Division. The team has made the playoffs for the past 9 seasons, the longest in the NHL. With not even a Stanley Cup Finals appearance to show, it is shaping up to be a busy offseason for the Maple Leafs. They play the Anaheim Ducks at home tomorrow night. Onto the hardcourt now, and the Raptors were defeated last night by the Houston Rockets. RJ Barrett's 25 and Scotty Barnes' 23 were not enough as the Raptors struggled from three-point shooting, only making 9 shots. The Raptors now risk falling into the NBA's play-in tournament as they only sit half a game ahead of the Orlando Magic and Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference. Toronto heads to New Orleans to play the Pelicans tonight at 8 p.m. And finally, the basketball world is still buzzing after Miami Heat center Bam Adebayo etched his name in the history books last night. Adebayo scored 83 points in his team's victory against the Washington Wizards. This is now the second highest points tally in a single game in NBA history. He passed one of his basketball heroes, Kobe Bryant, who dropped 81 points against the Raptors over 2 decades ago. Adebayo's night was so impressive, he broke his team's single-game record of 61 points by LeBron James with a whole quarter left to play. Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game still stands as the record set in 1962. I don't think anyone could have predicted Adebayo's performance last night. That's all for sports. Let's send it back to the desk.
Thanks, Jaden. Now let's have a look at the other stories we're working on today and this week in our On the Record newsroom. Moyo, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Julia. Starting with an update from the TMSU. We're currently in the campaign period for the 2026 general elections, which will last until 5 p.m. on March 13. Candidates for various executive positions will use the next 2 days to spread their message to students. TMU still does not have an elected student government after the results from the fall 2025 by-election were deemed null and void due to allegations of voter interference. The majority of complaints received that prompted the cancellation of the elections concerned candidates campaigning outside their allotted period and coercing students to vote. OTR reporter Jaden Whitelaw spoke with various candidates in the upcoming elections, asking the crucial question: what do fair elections look like at TMU after the Students' Union's history of election complaints? Expect this story on our website this Thursday. Here at On the Record News, we are still covering the OSAP changes and its effects on TMU students. Ontario Premier Doug Ford announced on February 12th that post-secondary students starting next fall will receive only 25% of their funding as non-payable grants, with the remaining 75% coming as loans. Previously, students could receive up to 85% of their funding as grants and 15% as loans. Since the announcement, there has been enormous pushback from students, post-secondary unions, and political opposition. Yusuf Zaidi will be reporting from the NDP Save OSAP Town Hall for On the Record News on March 12, as they aim to help people get informed, organized, and demand better for students in Ontario. Keep an eye out for this story on our website later this week. Season 8 of our podcast about the municipal elections is still running. Last week, for episode 3, Jaden Whitelaw and Anna Jeffs discussed what private citizens can do to influence local politics beyond voting. Next week, our hosts, Julia Sawicki and Miguel Mabalay, will take a deep dive into the promises made and kept or broken regarding Toronto's environmental footprint and net zero goals. Make sure you listen to our past episodes and the upcoming one out next week on Friday. You can also check out our website on therecordnews.ca for any news stories. Back to you in the studio.
Let's check in with Julia Petrucci for the weather and to see what spring has in store this week.
Good afternoon, Toronto. This is your 7-day weather forecast for the upcoming week. Starting off strong, expect light to little rain to settle in today. By the end of the day, a stronger system moves through with a 75% chance of rain during the day, which could transition into snow overnight as the temperature drops. Enjoy the double digits while they last. We go from a high of 13 degrees today to a daytime high of just 1 degree by Thursday. The wintry mix is expected to return Friday, and Sunday will see both active weather patterns featuring snow showers. Sunday looks particularly grimy, starting with snow and switching to rain as the temperature climbs to 6 degrees. Make sure to keep those coats handy for Monday. While the high is 2 degrees, the overnight low is plummeting to a bone-chilling -10, with 23 miles per hour winds out the west coming into Tuesday morning. And just a pro tip, with the weather picking up to 23 to 24 miles per hour in winds early next week, the wind chill will make those single-digit temperatures feel so much more colder, so keep that in mind when you bundle up next week. That's your weekly weather forecast. Julia Petrucci for On the Record News.
Thanks, Julia. That's all for On the Record this March 11th. I'm Miguel Mabalay.
And I'm Julia Sawicki.
From everyone here at OTR, thanks for joining us, and we wish you the best.